here in Blackwattle Bay. It was rather controversial, the police crew representing Australia at the 1936 Games. But nevertheless they did. But in that Australian crew was Wal Macney. Wal Macney, the father of Kim Macney.
What I'll do when I'll read it.
So some interesting coincidences on a wonderful site and a wonderful day's racing to take place. And the first event, they are on the line, the women's under 16 scull.
Sure.
Well, it sounds like we've got to start. They're trying to pick up the words of the starter down there. And I think that might be Barbara Ranjan as the start of the day. Yes, that's correct. We're under the auspices of now the president of the jury, I think they're called now, no longer the umpire referee, but he's called the president of the jury over changes to the Constitution for Riding New South Wales. And the name is Sophia Miller in lane 1. That's on the left-hand side, on the fish market side of the course, in the centre, Bridie Morrison and Safa Kovacic. Now, the scullers themselves out of sight at the present moment because our view is restricted by the restaurant, the original Glebe Rowing Club site, and we wait and see if we can just get a glimpse of the scullers coming through here now. And we are able to pick up, and you hopefully be able to see on the live stream, which is an experimental situation at the present moment, you should be able to pick up the 3 scullers coming through. 2 Glebe scullers and 1 from MLC School. Familiar colours of Glebe, you can watch for them if you can see them on live stream. They will be in the magnificent maroon and white. MLC School, I think, a dominant pale blue colour sculler. He's on lane 3 and that's on this side. Well, here we are. You can see it coming down now, the first of the scullers. Only metres from the line. So it will be the Glebe sculler in first place at Glebe 1, and I think that would be Sophia Miller taking the win there. A good race going on between the 2 scullers here now. Glebe hanging on for second place. And that would mean that it could be Bridie Morrison in second place, leading by a length over the young Sasha Kovacic, coached by Kathleen Hextell. Hextell comes from Des Moines, and Kovacic comes from the MLC School. 3 scullers, and it was a good finish coming up here.
1 minute 38.90.
Well, there we are, 1:38.90 at the time. And there the voices
16.39.
of the president of the jury.
2.13.
Brett, Barry, your lapel mic is having real problems. Can I get you to try this one again? That's all right? Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. Time of 1:49.26. Yeah, copy, thank you.
We're just in a process of changing microphones at the present moment. Well, we've just changed microphones, just waiting to see how we're going there with our sound.
I'll need you to use that one. Sound. So it was coming out very staticky, or?
Well, the races are separated by 15 minutes. We're just having a few issues for Brisbane. As you can imagine, this is live stream, and it's almost like the first day of rugby league football. And
Well, what a magnificent effort has been done over here. Event number 2. The conversation in the background, and you can hear as the boat race officials down at the start. The next event is what is known as the Men's Intermediate 4 with Coxon. My understanding is we have 2 crews up at the start. The original entry that came in from Glebe. Now there are two crews here. I think it's the two crews from Glebe. There's Ben Ween's crew, of course, they're in lane 1, and I think the other crew is comprises Mark McEwen, Stephen Caldwell, Richard Rebillard, and Mark Tijan from Glebe, and they're costed by another evergreen from Glebe Rowing Club, Kenny Major. Major, very well known man amongst rowers, and even though he's now in the Masters category and coaching, I would think, in his he gets the same reach in a boat and still as athletic as he was when he was a youngster going back 10 years ago. Then 2. Well, once again, we're going to try to get into the conversation that goes on down there for the boat race officials. Very homely atmosphere down here at the Glebe. We've just had a couple of kookaburras in the trees close to us. You may have heard some background noise there, and as we see the crews and the scullers getting ready for the men's under 16 single scullers down there on the pontoon, and we won't go into those just at this stage of the game. We're waiting to see the lineup there in the men's intermediate top school. I think we've probably got 2 crews there. Wait a minute, I think one of the crews there could be from Des Moines. So we'll see the colours of Australia on the Des Moines crew, which should be in lane number 1. And then the Glebe crew, then, we just mentioned of McEwen, Caldwell, Rebillard, and Teason, and their coxswain will be Kenny Major. And also, amongst the audience, we mentioned we do have Margot, the CEO of Rowing New South Wales, with us today. We've also got Phil Sharp, who is the medical advisor to New South Wales Rowing, who has set the standard for our compliance, or Glebe's compliance, with the running of this particular regatta. I think the organisers of, or the committee of Rowing New South Wales will be justly proud, as this is the first regatta for the 2020-2021 season with the way it's being run. You can see the evidence there of social distancing. I don't know whether there will be the traditional canteen that they used to run from here with the food and legitimate way that clubs can raise a few dollars. I think that might be off limits today, but we'll find out. You got a canteen today, mate? You got a canteen today? A canteen.
A canteen.
Yeah. Food? No, I wouldn't have think that there would be today. No, I was asking.
Oh, no, we don't. No, no.
Good, okay. Good, yeah, no. Well, with an early start for the women's under-16 sculls that we saw, that was the competition of Miller, Morrison and Kovacic. Well, we've made a few adjustments to the speaker system up here. There's only the one main speaker, and of course there are a lot of other communication systems going on associated with the live streaming. So if you find that it's not within your hearing and you're down in the environs of Glebe Rowing Club, can you come up and let Liam James know, because we rely on you to let us know what you are hearing. Well, we have a crew making its way now, Bill. I hope they're going to make it on time. Our regatta time would be roughly about 10 past 9. The race scheduled for 9:15. Of course, we did get an early start with the first event on the day's program, the women's under-16 scull. So we've got a Glebe crew making its way up to the start. So far as we're aware, there will be one Drummoyne crew racing in the second event of the day's program, the men's intermediate coxed forward. Now, as we said, we have our special advisor to New South Wales Rowing here today. So if people in the environments of the Glebe Rowing Club could exercise common sense, and that is also directed towards people who may be passing. We've got a common walkway that goes in front of the shed here, and people may be passing. They're fascinated by what they see in the racing program. So if you can make sure that you do observe safe distancing, don't gather in large groups or big groups, and make sure that you keep that 1.5 arms distance. I think it's probably a couple of metres distance. Don't forget there is a register downstairs where visitors to the shed should make sure that they put their name down there. The list will be probably destroyed after the regatta today, but you need to make sure it'll be after 4 weeks that will be destroyed, so it's only kept for the information of the authorities. So make sure in this day and age, because there's a lot of hotspots starting to develop in New South Wales, we don't want to go down the same track as Victoria. They were going quite well there for a while, and we listened to the advice of all medical people, including that of the rowing medical advisor, Dr. Phil Sharp. Dr. Sharp, of course, a great oarsman from the old Haberfield Rowing Club in those days, and represented New South Wales, and so he knows what rowing is about, and he can know the fun that rowing can have, but also a well-known practical, I guess, specialist, still practicing as a trainer to young doctors. Well, we're just looking around at the crowd. We can see Anne Craig down there. Anne Craig, who of course is a noted coach with Balmain for those people with a disability, and call them PR3s. And I think Anne Craig has also had a lot with others in getting crews across to the head of the Charles over in America in previous years. So we've got some very high-powered people in New South Wales rowing down here watching the first regatta of the 2020-21 season. Well, it's going to be wonderful to see the competition between these. I think they're the Manly Fast Ferries. We might be even able to pick the Manly Fast Ferry, leaving its berth now, heading up Blackwattle Bay. And if we're a success with the live streaming, it should pass by the camera as it goes past on its way to do that, what is it, several miles of care.
To help stop the spread of viruses, like the flu or coronavirus, good hygiene is essential. That starts with washing your hands thoroughly with soap and water. Whenever you cough, sneeze or blow your nose, prepare food or eat, care for someone sick, touch your face or use the toilet. Remember to cough or sneeze into your arm or a tissue. Bin the tissue and wash your hands. Together we can help stop the spread and stay healthy. Visit australia.gov.au, authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Start from umpire 2, we're moving and changing the lane for technical reasons, okay? Yeah, listen.
Start to finish, over.
Go ahead.
Just going to wait for the Manly Fast Ferry to leave and take its way with it before we start.
Yeah, no problem. Let's already go.
You're listening to the voices from the boat race officials, so that's coming through loud and clear. And the race just held up and delayed for a few moments whilst the Manly Fast Ferry moves out of Blackwattle Bay. Well, there we have the sound of the starter for the men's intermediate Cox 4. Two crews, we understand, on the line for Des Moines, which you'll see in the green and yellow or green and gold colours of Australia from Des Moines, and the crew from Glebe. Coxswain, we understand, by Kenny Major, and the crew comprising McEwen, Caldwell, Regatta, and Mark Tejan. The race scheduled to start at 9:15, so right on time. They're off and running over the course of 500 metres, with the Manly Ferry having gone by, and a magnificent water down here today, flat calm, a couple of pelicans on the water, and there's more pelicans up here in the shed, I would think, talking to Liam James, and it looks like we've got about 250 metres to go now in this event, the men's intermediate Cox 4. Now, the intermediate classification used to be there, novice, intermediate, and we have, I think, a junior category going back about 50 or 60 years ago. Here they come now. The Des Moines colours are showing out about 3/4 of a length ahead of Glebe. A good row coming up from Des Moines. They reach out, and the Cox, of course, from the back. In the Glebe crew, the Cox is right up the front. So it will be Des Moines first placed and followed by Glebe. And we hope you're able to see that. There's been a few little problems they've had with live streaming, but hopefully you've been able to see the finish.
Time for that event, 1 minute 20.2, over. 1:20.2. Yeah, copy, thank you.
1:20.2 is the time for the men's intermediate Cox 4. Well, according to our schedule here, the next event should be starting off around about 9:30, 9:30, 500 metres. Once again, one starter registered at this from the Glebe Rowing Club in the women's intermediate quad. Now, for those people that might be looking at a regatta for the first time, and there'd be very few of them here, but we will explain the difference between the Cox boats, which are sort of, briefly described as Cox boats in the fours, are using the long oars. When we talk about a quad, 4 people you will see in the boat, each with 2 smaller oars. So the next event is a women's intermediate quad. There will not be a coxswain in the boat, presumably, and each of the scullers in the quad will have 2 oars. Well, just before we go to the next event, you can see a lot of activity going over there in the fish markets. The other side, of course, they've had quite a few changes over there over the years from the early days of the fish markets, and I think the major area now, which accommodates a number of restaurants over there, and of course the auction sales themselves, was in fact replaced. I think it was AA Press, or it might have been the Daily Telegraph store of newspaper print, which going back to probably the late 60s, I think it was, the late 60s, caught alight, and the whole of that premises got burnt out, and then in the aftermath of that fire, we saw the development of the new fish markets, and even now, the planning going ahead for another replacement fish markets on the same site. The Blackwattle Bay has had its fair share of fires over the years, and today, as the fog lifts, we can start to see a lot of activity going on at the fish markets, and traffic starting to get a little heavier over there on the both approaches to the Anzac Bridge.
There's nothing more important than your health, so take good care of it. If you have an illness that requires regular checkups or need medical advice, there are a range of options. You can have an appointment using telehealth by phone or video conference. Check if your doctor can send the telehealth prescription to your pharmacy, or you can see your doctor in person. Together, we can all be COVID safe and stay healthy. Visit health.gov.au to learn more. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
We're back to racing now, and in the men's and the women's, I think, event number 3, the women's intermediate quad. Now, according to this, there is only the one crew racing here. It's a crew from Glebe. There we go. It's this is technically referred to as a row over when you only have the one crew racing.
Okay, the scullers coming up in this event have got lane numbers on them 1, 2, 3. It doesn't actually relate to their lane, it relates to their grading. So it's Glebe 1 in 1, Glebe 2 in 2, Glebe 3 in 3. And so they're lined up in their lanes now for the way they ought to start. It's just that they won't be lanes 1, 2, 3. So you can call them, how would you like to call them, as lane 1, 2, 3 as per their bow number, or as per their designation?
No, I'll call them as per bow number. Cindy, did you get that? Lane 2 and 3 are reversed. So lane 2 on the program is in lane 3, and lane 3 on the program is in lane 2. Over.
Yeah, copy.
Well, you heard the discussion going on there between the boat race officials and organising crews for the following event, which is the men's under 16 single scull. Well, here we have, they should be approaching us now in what we refer to as a row over. The crew from, I think it was a Glebe crew in the women's intermediate quad. And in charge of that crew, for one of the name, it's Louise McCauley. Is normally on programs we see the stroke of the crew, and in this one we've certainly got that name. Louise McCauley in the stroke seat. It is a Glebe crew, as you can see they're coming down, and as we said, 2 oars for each of the rowers there. They're followed by the umpire's boat, safety boat in the race. No coxswain. They've got across the finishing line and they will register a win. And the time there, 1:54.55 for the 500 metres. And the crew's still anxious to keep on rowing. I think they're probably around about the roundabout on Glebe Point Road at the present moment. They've gone very quickly off the course, and we're waiting now on the next event. That's the red boy.
Start from umpire 2. Is there any reason why we can't get these guys going now? They're freezing.
We're just following through right now. Over.
Copy that, thanks. Yeah, feel free, over.
Thanks, Greg. Will do.
Well, there's the
For any other races, over, as long as we've got notice down.
Well, then we'll bring them down.
Well, the next event will be a good competition between crews in the men's under 16 single scull. And we understand.
We can't hear you at all.
Oh, that's it.
I think we can now.
Just 1, 2, 3. Thanks. Well, the outcome of discussion with the boat race officials is they were endeavouring to bring the race a little bit earlier on, because it is reasonably cold out there on the waters of Blackwater Bay, and of course the fog yet to lift no sign of the sun, and they've got all these young scullers up there for the under 16 men's single scull event number 4 in the program, and we'll just run through the lineup there. Out of lane order, you'd have Archie Osborne, I think is certainly there. He'll be in lane 3. Benedict Astill Hardy is in lane 1 on the far side. Then you've got Alex Quick, I think it is, so in lane 2. And there are the 3 scullers that we have registered at this stage. So 3 young scullers in the men's under 16. Now, the under 16 point score goes towards a trophy named as the Sid Sharp Silver Tray. And looks like we have a start in that event. And talking about the host club here, Glebe, Glebe did very well at the 2019 Regatta, taking out second place in the JB Sharp Memorial Cup, also taking out the Glebe Centenary Shield, and getting a third in the Kevin Webb OAM Cup. So these 3 young scullers coming down here in the men's under 16 scull, all from the Glebe Rowing Club, and it's a reflection of the effort that the Glebe Rowing Club under the captain Brad Smith has gone to in the encouragement of a real community club round here, taking in masters, a very good masters category, as well as the junior development program which they have. They've covered about 200 metres at this stage of the game, and here they come. Coming up here, they've covered the 400 metres, and we have Glebe number 2. I think that could be Mark McEwen. Is that? No, it's not Mark McEwen. It would be Alex Quick, I think. So lane 2 taking out, or the boat number 2 taking out first place. Second place will go to lane 3, and I think that could be Archie Osmond. Yep, Archie Osmond. That's the one. Second place, and the third place coming out here will be the number 1 boat marked there, and I think that will be Benedict Hardy. Benedict Hardy taking out 3rd place for Glebe. And I think in the accumulation of the under 16 category, I think it's only the race winner that takes the points, and that's the only one club can take the points. So Glebe taking away the
132.23.
Time for that race, 1 minute 34.5. Race clear. Over.
roughly about 134, I think, will be the time for that
0.03.
last event.
17.21. So 2-1. And it went 2-3-1. 2 was 2.
Now the boat race official, of course, will be giving the intervals between first, second and third. If you're down here on the right on site, you're able to see the difference in the spacing between the placings as they go across the line, and also on live stream you should be able to pick that up. The final spacings, if you like, or the time intervals, will be on the website when the results are posted later on today or early tomorrow. Well, we witnessed the men's under 16 scull. The event will be number 5, and it's called the Men's Open Pair. As we see now, the trawlers coming back in, or certainly a trawler coming back in, and about to depart Blackwater Bay is the second of the Manly ferries, the Manly fast ferries. So a little bit of activity right on the finishing line at the present moment. And we now know that the boat race officials are endeavouring, as the crews turn up for the start, to move them perhaps a little bit earlier than the advertised start time of the event. So if you can hear us down there in the environs of the club and you're intending to race, if you could bear that in mind, go early down to the start rather than later. Another great oarsman passing away this year has been Bob Stone, of course. Thanks to the New South Wales Rowing, they alerted everybody that he wasn't in the best of health about a week and a half ago, and he passed away on Wednesday morning. And the service for him will be held up at Buderim in Queensland this coming Friday. So a great man of rowing. He rowed at two clubs, so Regatta Rowing Club and also at Sydney Rowing Club, and he achieved greatness as a coach at both clubs, particularly at Sydney, where he won many of the national titles for lightweight rowing, particularly in eights. And, a great proponent of lightweight rowing. And someone's just reminded me that, of course, Bob was with the New South Wales Police for many years, as we found that there were many police involved in rowing in those days. We made mention of the police club round here at Blackwater Bay, going back to 1936. But Bob passed away, and he was a very good man, probably thought of by those clubs and all clubs in New South Wales, and those people that he came into contact with in the various states and even internationally, particularly in New Zealand.
No, I don't remember that.
But he was terrific.
No, he was. I'm going up there for the funeral on Friday. Now listen. Yes. Yep. Yep. Steve Hinchy, yeah. Yeah, I'm going up to see Bob. We're very good friends. Our wives and ourselves went on cruises together and we exchanged things. Yes, he did. Yeah.
Well, in an endeavour to keep you a little bit more informed, I see that there is a pair oar about to go out in the water with the Glebe colours, and that will be for the men's open coxless pair. We know we've got two crews listed down there to be racing both from Glebe, but one of those Glebe has been a late change because I've noticed Kim Mackney was carrying the boat down, and no doubt be taking the oars down for that crew. Kim Macney, of course, represented Australia in the Olympics in 1972 at Munich. The tragic games, as they sometimes refer to it as. But anyway, Australia represented by Kim Macney in the pair. I'm just trying to think of who was with him in that boat, Phil. Do you remember? In the pair. I think he rode at Colleagues. No. Chris Stevens from Colleagues it was. Chris Stevens from Colleagues rode with Kim Macney, and Kim Macney, who went through a very dramatic boating accident here only months ago, and was hit by a barge, and in fact they barely thought that he would survive, has now come back and is racing here today in the JB Sharp Series, and down there now. Of course, and good luck to him. Bearing in mind, he's one of the icons of New South Wales rowing as a former Olympian. Well, you never have former Olympians. Once an Olympian, you are always an Olympian. Now, on the online, I think there are slides that you will see giving you details of the covered requirements for racing down here today. But generally speaking, for those people in the environments of the club, make sure you are keeping that social distancing in mind. Don't gather in large groups. And this is the first rowing regatta that we have had here in New South Wales since many of the major events were discontinued or cancelled earlier on this year. So we need to make sure that there is compliance with the covered requirements, and that will mean also that the hand sanitizer is located in strategic places in the shed below, and also there will be a list at the entrance to the club premises for people to sign their name. In accordance with the requirements of the convener, those lists will be maintained for about 4 weeks, and they will be destroyed. Well, there's certainly movement down at the pontoon. We can see the Paris colours starting to make their way from Balmain, and that's event number 6. So we're waiting on now event number 5, the men's open coxless pair. We have 2 crews racing for Glebe, and that event in the men's open pair was scheduled for 10 o'clock and 10 minutes to go, and as soon as they're up there, they'll be off and running in that particular event. That's the men's open coxless pair. It's an Olympic class boat for those people who might be listening in. It's an Olympic class boat, and 2 rowers in the pair, obviously, and each with the sweep oars. The advertised time for the men's open pair was a 10 o'clock start. If they get away early, the following event might be able to start a little bit earlier rather than 10:15. So the Paradox colours, we don't want them hanging around in the water in the cold. So as soon as all the Paris colours are down there, that will be good. I think we've got 2 crews there from Balmain in the Paradox. That's event number 6. And they'll also have a Glebe combination with them. So if the 3 three double scullers, the para double scullers. As soon as they're down at the start, they will have the perhaps a little bit earlier start than originally thought. Well, going across the finishing line now, you should see them making their way to the start will be the para double scullers. As you can see, each sculler in the boat with two sculls, or two oars if you like, referred to generally. And close behind them and moving up to the start will be one of the costless pairs for event number 5. And the original entries had Tim Bland and Richard Regatta, and I think that Tim Bland could be there, and I think Tim Mackie might be replacing Richard Regatta. And the second of the men's open costless pair will be the Hewitt and Caldwell.
I've been trying to keep everything running. I don't know whether this is one of the latest one of this. I tried to work it out. So I don't know what the difference was between the two. But in this one, I had to find a substitute. So Keith was asking me to find a substitute somewhere. And I honestly, I was so basic. Yep. So I've got to take some and call it out. Yeah, right, okay. I thought I was doing something wrong. So that was not an issue.
Well, it's nice to hear there's some encouragement on the part of the boat race officials down at the start to call up the crews in the men's open pair to see if they can get them moving as quickly as possible. Still very foggy down here in the Sydney City skyline, and you can just make out the fog enveloping the Packer new casino over there, the large building that will I think it's almost reached completion. So a lot of action going on down here, and not just with the fog and the large buildings, and some of the taller buildings are still enshrouded with fog. We've also got the return of some of these trawlers and coming in. And of course the Manly ferries still yet to go out. We've already had 2 move out.
Well, we mentioned there's representatives from Rowing New South Wales down here today, and of course one we've just cited amongst the group busy with the organisation of this regatta is Owen Dix, who is the rowing secretary for Rowing New South Wales. And the organiser and listing and registration of all regattas, and also all those people rowing at regattas. A magnificent job he does down there at New South Wales Rowing. Well, I think we've seen the 3 para double scullers move up there, and I think by now we should have the 2 men's open pairs up there, which will be the race. They're about to see event number 5, the men's open coxless pair. I think it's Bland and McNeil, I think, should be the crew on the left-hand side. That's on the fish market side of the course. And the Kewen and Caldwell in lane number 2. Well, it's starting to get very busy on Blackwater Bay with the dragon boats also based down here in the bay, making their way back to their base. We're about to start in the men's open coxless pair. Well, the dragon boats certainly got a big presence down here. I think we've seen about this is the 4th one of them to go through. Nothing to do with this regatta, of course, but they're obviously training for big competition, and they also play a major role up there on the events for them at the International Regatta Centre. Well, I'm informed that this one is called an outrigger. I look forward to the president of the jury today to tell me it's got an outrigger. Jeff, okay, great to you.
Most will go on fine, unless everyone's there in that pouring rain to go early. So if someone's not there, it won't go early.
Well, I guess the feature of this is to see the performance, and we're looking at characters on the boats. And here they come through now. The 2 crews, both from Glebe, both carrying the Glebe colours, and it's the Glebe crew. I think it's the one on this side, and that will make it. That's probably McEwen and Caldwell. McEwen and Caldwell taking the win, about half a length between them, and Kim Macney in the crew on the far side, also from Glebe, taking 2nd place. And 1:35.23 the time for that event, and you'll be able to see all the different spacings and all the different times on the New South Wales Rowing website later today, or certainly it'll be on deck tomorrow. Well, our Olympian Kim Macney will have to be satisfied with the silver medal on this occasion.
Kim had to be in his 70s and a great athlete, still as straight as he was in the day that he rode in 1972 representing Australia. Good comment. But he's also the handicapper for scullers here in New South Wales. He did win this regatta. And a great advocate, being a great coach, rowing coach. And of course his wife, Robin Batney, a coach advocate on also at UTS, that's the Haberfield, Haberfield Cup. Or UTS Haberfield. But anyway, Kim Batney having to be satisfied, but I think at one stage Kim in the last few months was probably lucky to be alive after his collision on the water, not far from here in Blackwater Bay, with a large barge that ran them down. We see quite a lot of publicity, and Kim spent some time in hospital. But lovely to see him back in a boat and reliving the memories of 1972, but coming second in today's race in the men's open Coxless pair. Oh.
Right. So I'm only part of the crew of the Philippines. Are you going to go back out of the water or come around here from?
Yes, right, we got a lunch here, they'll be down in about 3 minutes.
Minutes, so they're going to be very warm, and the other two are sitting off with a boat full of water.
Yeah, very unhappy days.
Great water.
Coronavirus is most likely to spread from person to person when we come into close contact with one another. We can all help stop the spread by keeping our distance. This means do not shake hands or exchange physical greetings, and wherever possible, stay at least 1.5 metres away from others. It's also really important to practice good hygiene, especially after being in public places. Together, we can help stop the spread and stay healthy. Visit health.gov.au to learn more. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
On the water.
That's all right. Yeah, 5 seconds off the other guy.
Some time before Kim arrives. If they'd like to come down and turn around, can you let them know? Over.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that'd be ideal because if we can do that, I mean, theoretically, if we can get the live results, I can do it in this, and so we could have the live results running through that finish line, and potentially just sit in front of the whole computer. Yeah, fantastic. Let's see if anyone has any questions.
Can you tell, can you?
Yeah, so there's so many hundreds of people sitting on it. So we've had a bunch of people jumping on and off it. There's still only kind of a few people at a time. There's only 4 or 5 people on it right now. But it's been played back 27 times. So there are people getting into it, not all at once.
Well, we get the feeling in looking at Liam James that this live streaming is being perhaps a little bit more successful than was originally thought. It's a bit of a trial, and it is working, and there are about a half a dozen people currently watching it. So if you're not on site and you're watching the live stream, I think we can thank Liam James, who only came up with the idea of live streaming it several weeks ago and has managed to get and put equipment together in conjunction with Rowing New South Wales.
Now, unlike live streaming that we've seen from regattas, probably interstate and also at the International Regatta Centre, where they're camera operated and they can follow the racing down and they can see it, cameras, and pass from various stages. And they also use drones. At the present moment, live streaming here on Blackwater Bay only has one camera, a still camera looking just across the finishing line. And I don't know whether we've got a live picture going out to you now, but you can probably see the finishing line. You might even be able to see the traffic on the approaches to the Anzac Bridge.
They can see you as well, Barry. We've got 3 cameras running. We've got a zoom camera, we've got a far side camera, and we've got a camera on your face at the moment, which is this guy here.
Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it, Liam? Made me feel very embarrassed. He just mentioned that we also found a commentator. I'll talk to the commentator later to make sure he's looking his best, Liam.
I'll wipe you off the screen. There you go. You're off the screen.
Well, thanks very much, Liam. Well, the next big race we're looking at is for the Para Double Sculls. Now, the Para 1, Para 2 and Para 3, PR3 they're called, PR1, 2 and 3, various forms of disability that with the PR3s, it's probably the least involved. They still have movement, but right up to the PR1s, which are like our world champion, who has that where they can, all their movement is with arms and shoulders, or just with the arms, and where they are strapped by their legs into the way. That's the PR1. So there is movement now coming down in the PR3s. All these double scullers that we see come from Balmain, one from Glebe. 2 Balmain double scullers and one from Glebe. That's the crew of Kevin Hall and Mika Kelly. Oh no, is it? I think it is. I think it's Glebe with Kevin Hall and Mika Kelly. And then 2 from Balmain. And the Balmain crew, with Eleanor Taylor and Stephen Law, they should be on the far side, closest to the fish markets. They're coached by Anne Craig, whose name we mentioned before. Liam James also in the mix there, and he's been very much along with his mum, Barbara Ramjam, in getting these crews on the water. It probably is more in the last perhaps 7 or 8 years that para rowing here in New South Wales has really come to the fore. And looking at the international success of the Australian representatives, it was para rowing that brought their medal tally up to where they were one of the leading countries in Australia in the overall medal tally of the last Olympics and World Championships. So well done to the para rowers, and they will comprise the next event, the para double scullers. You can hear the supporters down at the start either way. So there's been a start now in the para double scullers, the event number 6 on the program. And as we said, we have 3 double sculls there in event number 6. And on the far side in lane 1, Eleanor Taylor and Stephen Lawler from Balmain Rowing Club. In the centre will be a crew from Glebe with Kevin Waller and Mika Kelly. And then on the Glebe Rowing Club side, we have the Balmain combination of Lauren Webber and Bronte Marshall.
Can you just call the finish for me when they get over? Over?
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Balmain 2 is...
And here they come now. The first crew that comes across, it's
So, you know them, you're going to have them right?
Yep.
well, they look very close together as they come across. Still got the colours.
Balmain 1,
So Balmain,
Balmain 2, Glebe.
well, but the two Balmain crews are back in third place will be Glebe. The number one crew from Balmain would be Eleanor Taylor and Stephen Lawler, coached by Anne Craig and Liam James. And then in second place it will go to the Balmain crew of Lauren Webber and Bronte Marshall.
149.98.
And they will then followed by the Glebe crew of Kevin Wall and Mika Kelly.
Yeah, copy, thank you.
337 and 225.
And the time for the event will be
Oh, it's 149.
1:49, the time for the para double sculls. As you can see, in terms of between male and female, I think there might have been a 5-second gap to allow for that in the down at the start, but as they went across the line, it looked like it was the two Balmain crews taking first and second place. Only one set of points going, of course, to Balmain, and then third points going to the Glebe combination of Kevin Wall and Mika Kelly. Now, in accordance with the advice that came from the organisers of the regatta, there have been no 8-ball racing on today's program. And that follows the advice that a little bit of concern over the combination and arrangements of 8 people rowing in the boat with a stern-faced coxswain. So that no need to go into the details, but over a whole race it was decided that because of the location around here at Blackwater Bay, that they would withdraw any racing for the big eights, as we refer them. Always a great sight to see, but nevertheless, in the interest of safety and also the covered rules and regulations, that no 8-ball racing will be held on this program today.
Viruses spread when you cough and sneeze, and the tiny droplets land on surfaces others might touch. You can help reduce the risk by coughing or sneezing into your arm or a tissue. Bin the tissue. Wash your hands with soap and water. And if you're sick, seek medical advice. Together, we can help stop the spread and stay healthy. Visit australia.gov.au. Authorised by the Australian...
west and looking across to see whether in Sydney. I don't know how he has time to do that when he's looking at preparation. Well, we can hear the starter in the background there calling up the crews in the next event, which is the number 7, which is the women's brothers quad. I think we've only got the one crew racing down here today, and they're expected to achieve a significant time. Crew is under control of Louise McCauley. That's the only name we have down there for that crew, Louise McCauley from Glebe. We'll now go across to the start, 500 metres away. Well, the fog down here in Blackwell Bay just starting to look a little bit higher. Still, some of those taller buildings in the Sydney city still shrouded in mist.
You see Australia Square and also the new casino down there at Darling Harbour. Looking, well, it just seems to go up endlessly into the clouds, and you can't see the harbour bridge from here, but the Anzac Bridge full of traffic now as we've seen more action going on over at the Sydney Fish Market. It's a wonderful sight from here we are. Now, you probably understand that down at the start, the boat race officials and the startup have always a little trouble with lining up the next event because it's the men's
novice single, race number 8 on your program. Now, novice single scullers means that they have not faced the starter before, so they've got to get up to the start, turn their boats round, line up, keep that, I guess, even social distancing on the water, probably about a length between them, and they've got to listen in on the starter's instructions to make sure that they are heading in the right direction.
If you've never raced before, for the starting,
so 3 of the 4 have arrived, still waiting on the 4th sculler to arrive at the start. The lineup, as we understand, all from Glebe Rowing Club. Hadley Anderson, a new name in sculling. Next to him, in lane number 2, will be Willow Carter. In lane 3 will be Matt Moran, also from Glebe. And then the 4th sculler to take place will be Christopher Niche in lane 4. That's on the clubhouse side of Blackwater Bay.
we're still trying to see if we can improve the sound that's coming through. It's probably, if you're listening off-site, it might be a bit bubbly. I guess that there's a lot of work going on here to try to make sure that this becomes a little clearer. So we're still at the experimental stage. We're talking about the young people, the young with men's novice single sculls. And I think I can remember racing back many years ago. It was in 1959, it goes back 1960, with the old Glebe Club. And there was no pontoon. In fact, Reggie Stride is the name that might be known of many riders used to. He was a waterman, very famous waterman associated with Sydney Rowing Club. Went by the name of Stridey. And Stridey used to bring down a large timber barge and very high off the water. And they used to put a little wheel which would bring it down to an acceptable level, put chairs on it, and it became the gallery. It became the gallery for spectators at the Glebe Goby Shark Regatta. Of course, up on the veranda of the original building will be Kevin Webb, long since gone now as the commentator on the day, sitting out on a makeshift veranda and watching the races that they could see. And they could start, I think, from the old Maritime place over about 800 metres it was in those days. I think the traffic time about over 500 metres. It was a magnificent era, but there was no easy way of access from the shore onto Lake Wattle Bay. You used to tread on broken bottles and mud and slush to get there. And certainly times have changed here on this magnificent site of Black Wattle Bay. They have a magnificent structure provided by Maritime and a great deck there on which to load their boats. In fact, Glebe have taken full opportunities by developing a magnificent club down here. So I think they were off the air there for a couple of years after they lost their original club, and still come back to the benches. The captain, Bradley Smith, they've done a great job in fostering young development rowing as well as maintaining the masters rowing.
Just say shut up, everyone say shut up.
No. To have you. It's much much better to have had you talking there. I think I might have the sound sorted out. So it's now running. This little lapel mic is causing me a lot of trouble, so I'm trying to run it now through the USB and just test between the two of them to see which one works better. I think the blue one is going to work better.
Well, they're aligning the scullers now, and of course the scull is listening intently to these instructions, which we'll try to bring to you. Two ones, that's two, isn't it? One's a two, aren't they?
Yes.
Get confused. Ask them.
Well, you could feel the excitement beating in the hearts of those young gentlemen down there at the start, their very first event and possibly their first row of the season. New starters to the business of competitive rowing. And they are, the four of them, all from the one club.
One, light touch two. Light touch. Light touch. Lane two, very light touch. Take it four, you're rolling off the line. Hold it minute four, hold. Light touch four, hold it three. Light touch one, light touch four. Hold it minute two and three, light touch four. Light touch four, keep coming, and that's it, hold it there, hold it turn. Picture, all clear.
Well, we have a start. You can imagine how excited these young men are. If one of the things with a new sculler just starting off is they get very much used to propelling the boat forward. But when they're called upon to back the boat down, as you heard from the instructions of the starter, once they've crossed the line and they need to be brought back into line, the hardest thing for them to do is to back the boat down, because it becomes then the reverse of everything they've been trained to do. So there's always a little bit of fidgeting going on. So there's a lot of the older people up here watching the sport, knowing that they're early days in sculling, and having some sympathy for them. But they're off and running now under the watchful eye of the starter and Barbara Ramjan, and they've had a good start, but about 150 50 metres now as they make their run over the final 350 metres for this event number 8, the men's novice single scull. Well, right on time, the scheduled start time. Once again, we thank the boat race officials. That's the New South Wales officials. They're fully qualified for getting the racing going away on time. 10:45 was the start. The men's novice single. As we see, the boats now covered about 200 metres. They'd be covered about halfway.
Oh, yeah. 2 on them.
Well, of course, be Glebe, and Glebe. And as we can see on the far side, that looks like it might be lane number 2 over there. That could be, I think, Willow Carter might be the leading sculler there. And the second place sculler, we'll see what happens. The second place sculler could be Matt Moran. And the third place sculler on the far side was likely to be, I think that could be Willow Carter. I'm not too sure about that. But they've gone across the line locked together. And that would include Hadley Anderson back in third place.
Umpire, can you just confirm the name of the one in the black shirt closest to you, please?
Lane 1 was in the T-shirt and finished behind lane 2, which had the other one on it, mate. So the zoot suit is lane 2 and the T-shirt is lane 1.
Good, thank you.
I think they're checking on to make sure they identify the correct scullers. Could be Hadley Anderson, but we're waiting for the official call. We might wait until we get official placings for the last event.
2 minutes neat, 0.83.
In trying to interpret the call out there and the designation, I think that might be Hadley Anderson that went to first place. Would that be correct? Matt Moran. So Matt Moran takes first place. Second place will then go to Hadley Anderson for second. And Willow Carter will be in third place, and fourth place would be Christopher Niche. Yeah, a little bit of confusion there because there were 2 scullers there carrying lane number 1. And of course, the way they were entered into the crew, we had Anderson in lane 1 that it went across. But anyway, the final results will see Matt Moran as the winner of the men's novice single sculls. Second place going to Hadley Anderson. And third place going to Willow Carter. And fourth place there to Christopher Niche. That's the results of the men's novice single scull. Well, the next event on the program will be event number 9. And event number 9 is the men's open Coxed 4. And my understanding is we have 3 starters there. Glebe number 1 would be in lane 1, but I think they're called the Glebe number 2 crew. We'll have to find out how we work that out. We'll look at the boat race officials. But Glebe number 2 crew will be in lane 1. And then in the centre will be Drummoyne crew. I think Drummoyne are in the, they're in the centre. And Glebe number 1 crew will be in lane number 3 on the clubhouse side of the course. Well, we know that the leading lights in the Glebe number 2 crew would comprise Kenny Major. And that will be, so it's Kenny Major's crew will be on the far side. That's the fish market side. And then Benjamin Ween is the stroke of the Drummoyne combination. He'll be in lane number 2. And then lane number 3 would be the crew with Chris Turner. That's the Glebe crew with Chris Turner. Now, it is a requirement that Rowing New South Wales, they will have their bow numbers, or supposed to have their bow numbers on the bow of the boat, as everybody knows, but for people who might have accidentally joined the 50 or so people now that are watching the live stream, "52 people watching this this live stream," and that's a fantastic number, Liam. And we do hope it's coming across. We've had a few problems with the sound, but the commentator's getting over on the age side now and might be making himself clear. But it has been a magnificent trial. This live stream, quite a success.
Which club's in the league? Give you a clue.
You can't do that. Well, they want a live point score. Well, I'd say it could be, at a guess, would it be Newcastle Rowing Club? No, it probably is Glebe. Glebe at their own regatta have got a large number out there, and they've really showed off their young stars over here at the last event. And congratulations to Brad Smith. And it doesn't matter where the regatta is, whether it's south down as far as Shell Harbour or even down at Shoalhaven, or north, right up there at Grafton and Taree, particularly where they have the summer regatta, you'll always find a Glebe crew. So congratulations for what you have done around here, Brad. A magnificent job. A great group of youngsters and also a group of masters. Masters rowing commences round about after age 27. It goes through in various grades, right up to its international classification of events. Masters now included on the international scene, has been so for many years. But the Masters rowing, the last big event they had over here was the Masters rowing. I think it was held in around 2005, 2007, somewhere around about that. They had crews from right around the world over here. And Glebe, in fact, beat, I think, the strong Russian combination in those days. I think even Kim Mackney might have been in that crew. A great performance coming from Glebe. Well, the men's open Cox is 4. You'll see the different standard of sculling that we've seen in some of the novice events, but now we come to the men's open Cox 4. This is open to, generally speaking, the best of the best. I think we're just about to start go. Move down to the start for the men's open Cox 4. We'll hand you over now to the starter.
Second lane 3, second lane 1. Second lane 2. All crews ready. Attention.
Well, the postman's called the whistle and they're off and running in the men's open Cox 4. 3 crews in this, 2 from Glebe, and right in the centre of the sandwich we've got Drummoyne Rowing Club. This is the top rowers here, certainly amongst the bay clubs, and I think in the crew from Glebe on the far side, I've noticed that we've got Mark Tejan, Stephen Corwood, Richard Rebillard and Mark McEwen in that group right over on the far side, and it will take them no time at all before they start to come into sight and interview round the corner of the original Glebe rowing shed, which is now a part of a restaurant, a very famous restaurant on Blackwattle Bay, and I think the underneath part still contains the hardware for Sydney, I think it's Sydney University Women's Rowing Club. But nevertheless, the waters still remain calm, and we should see these 3 boats fairly close together. High standard coming from the men's 4. And we mentioned, you'll probably notice as the boats go past, the coxswains can be either at the rear of a boat or they can be up in the bowkings. Here's the first of them now coming down, and looking at the colour of the blades, I think that's the Glebe combination. Gee, they've got a fairly large lead there. The hands come up on this side as certainly as Glebe. Place with a 3 on the bow, and I think that would be the crew of. We'll make a guess there. Looks like they might have had a bit of a breakage in the remaining crew. We're just trying to pick out which is the Drummoyne crew there, because they're. It was the Drummoyne crew that went off first. That's the crew, I think, that had the coxswain with the safety vest colours in the stern of the boat.
I'll try to finish.
Go ahead.
29.54. Over.
Copy, thank you.
128.89 will be the time for the first place crew from Drummoyne. Well, certainly a bit of a surprise. The Drummoyne crew rowing away now. You can see that they're showing all the skills of a top crew coming from Sydney. Drummoyne located, of course, on the wonderful waters of Lane Cove. And I don't know where they're boating from, but they're making their way back there. They could be boating from the fish market side of the course, but a very good performance coming from the Drummoyne combination.
For stepping up in tough times, for doing the little things, for keeping your distance and your sense of humour, for the courage you've shown and protecting your community. Thanks, Australia. The changes to stop the coronavirus aren't easy, but they're working. Keep going, and don't forget to download the COVID Safe app today. Together, we're stopping the spread. Authorised.
New South Wales, Haberfield, or I think it's University of New South Wales. Yeah, University of New South Wales. That's not right. UTS Haberfield. University of Technology in Sydney has moved in on the Haberfield shed, and that club is now called UTS Haberfield. Drummoyne still carries the name, but lost their licensed premises, and is still allowed to boat from the original boat shed down at Inine Cove. And of course, we've got the misfortunes of the Glebe Rowing Club, but haven't Glebe prospered. They've got a magnificent property down here now with a work shed, more storage for boats, a marvellous walkway out onto their launch pontoon. Congratulations to Glebe, they've done extremely well. Well, the fog is now lifted. We can see the top of the centre point just emerging now, and also the top of the new building over there, which will be the new casino and accommodation of Packer. And so the fog certainly has lifted. The water, fortunately, has remained calm. Very little breeze down here in these conditions, and so it's been augured well for rowing and the rest of racing today, as we look to see the results now, or coming up for the start of the women's handicap sculls. Well, the handicap scull now, in fact, in the last few years, it's broken up into men and women. Used to be a mainly male, very male-dominated racing there in the early days with the Walker and Hall Chalice. And the handicap scull last year was won by Shannon Lowe Griffith and Luke Harvey in second place, and another young sculler there, Evan Lloyd. Now, because of the advent, following the advent of women in sport and the great women contribution made to the sport of rowing, there is now another trophy for the women. It's the BMG Aviation Chalice, and last year it was won by Daniela Borgett, who was from Leichhardt Rowing Club. Emily Principi gaining second place, and Jodie Panagopoulos was third. So this is the first of the handicap sculling events. The handicaps determined by advice given by Kim Mackney, of course, to Rowing Association and to the convener of the handicap sculls here. And this will be the women's event, the first event in the handicap sculls. There are 4 starters here. Colleen Chapman from Abbotsford, I think Sasha Parashik, and Susan Jones, and I think in lane 4 we've got Cecile Fair. She cancelled out? So Fair's gone. Well, we're seeing a great representation here in the Women's Handicap Single Sculls event from the Abbotsford Club, formerly known as Sydney Women's MLC. And I think the MLC section have now gone onto the Lane Cove River in partnership with other premises over there. And Sydney Women's, of course, it was a misnomer, and Sydney Women's MLC used to have a very strong male component. But it was down running Battersea Park, which adjoins the great Sydney Rowing Club at the end of, it wasn't Lions Road, what's the road that runs out to Abbotsford called? Doesn't matter, you'll know where it is, Sydney Rowing Club. Now I see some male scullers going up there for the start of the male event. So we're into the handicap sculls event. Those perhaps a little bit inexperienced, of course, gaining the impression of the handicapper. So it's always interesting to see. The handicapper can be absolutely brutal after the first event of the series in making sure that they don't enjoy that handicap if they've been out and winning. So there's a little bit of foxing goes on the part of those competing in the handicap sculls, as we'll see today. So we'll be listening very closely for the starter as she calls them out, and in the order that they leave the starter, and you'll see them. The theory is that they all gather together very closely at the finishing line. So the male components in the handicap sculls making their move up there now, and they should keep a sharp eye out for the competitors in the women's section due to start in just a few moments. The scheduled time for the women's handicap sculls was 11:30. I think as soon as they have the starters up there from the Abbotsford Club, I think we're down to 3 now with Colleen Chapman, Sasha Kovacic, and Suzanne Jones. They will have a start.
Liam, we haven't had a
We haven't. Someone just said we did. I heard someone say we did. So we have the 4.
the last right touchdown.
Your records would show that there are 4 starters in this. Chapman, Kovacic, and Fair. But I thought Fair had pulled. That's the one. Got a full house. Is that right? Happens for number. So she's raced.
Well, according to the documentation here, that we do have the 4 starters lining up there for the women's handicap sculls. And one down there representing the school, MLC school, that would be Sasha Kovacic. So that gives us the Abbotsford sculler, Colleen Chapman, in lane 1. Lane 2, Sasha Kovacic from MLC school. It would be the Abbotsford sculler in lane 3, that's Suzanne Jones, and Abbotsford once again, and it is Fair, Carol Fair, who is racing, and the scullers in lanes 1 and lanes 4 will be on a 5-second handicap. So Chapman will be starting off the 5-second handicap along with Fair. So the 2 scullers in the centre will be our go scullers, and they will leave the starter very quickly. As we mentioned, going back to history of this event, used to see all the scullers gathered together until we started then to accept more entries, or many more entries from the female side, deciding then to run 2 trophies for that. The Walker and Hall Challenge for the men, which was historically the way it went, and the second one now for the women. And they'll be racing now for the BMG Aviation Chalice.
We should have
One off. Yep.
Well, in years gone by, and I'm sure Liam and the boat race officials remember that there was, I think at one stage, over 30 scullers used to race the Lion Cove in just the one event before they started to divide them up into men and women. Very popular event, but a marvellous sight to see 30 scullers racing over the 1,000 metres. I think it was on the Iron Cove course, starting up near the Iron Cove Bridge, depending on which regatta it was. But a very big lineup. It became very unwieldy, as you can imagine, with 30 scullers coming down, and the back markers, it was starting off with the bigger handicaps trying to make their way through all the scullers that had started off before. An interesting race from the spectators' point of view, but a little bit dangerous as time went by. So in the last few years, that accounts for a very sensible decision on the part of BROs on the part of the boat race officials to have them divided into two classes. At this event, of course, many of the traffic that comes around here for racing makes its own way from various clubs, whether it's North Shore or the Iron Cove, and many of the crews, of course, always rode round to Glebe. But of course, much more traffic now. It's a bit of wary passage coming across Pascoe Island and the wharf there at Balmain, and within close proximity to Cockatoo Island, the traffic there is very heavy, and of course much more use is made of trailers, and of course there's not much parking area around here for trailers. But whereas scullers used to come around here in big numbers, the rough waters of Sydney Harbour and the traffic on Sydney Harbour on a Sunday morning has been a little bit discouraging. Now, as soon as we hear news of their lining up for the handicap sculls for the women, we'll cross down there to the start. Well, first of the scullers have gone off there. Two of the scullers in the handicap sculls are on a 5-second handicap, which would make the two to go off on go would be Kovacic from the MLC school and Jones from Abbotsford.
So 3 out of 4. Who was the cancel? Right, yes. She's out.
Marty.
Well, it looks like we do have the 3 scullers there. It's not 4 as planned. So one sculler's gone off on go, and the Burp from Abbotsford and Chapman from Abbotsford start off at the 5-second mark. So that's the big question. What goes on in the early part, the 200 metres? 5 second, you could say that really it's, say, 2 seconds. The length of a sculling boat, 1.5 to 2 seconds. So you might find then that there are about a length or length and a half between them.
Abbotsford.
Well, we have this will be an interesting event, and now to interpret that there was about 5 seconds between the first one to go and the second one. These are the colours of MLC school, and this would be, I'm pretty sure that would be Sassy Covesic, isn't it? The MLC colours out there. Kobrick. And Kobrick's coming down, and we'll take the win, the women's section of the handicap sculls.
2 minutes, 13.8.
Well, we thought we had another starter there, but nonetheless. So 2:15 is the time for that event, and it looks like it's Kobrick from MLC School wearing the MLC colours and takes the win. Well, a very handy points, an interesting number of points, but of course I don't think clubs can, schools can compete or be recognised in their final awards, can they? Yeah. Well, fortunately, we have a much bigger field coming up here for the men's handicap sculls, because on the list that we see, we've got Kovrick racing over there in lane 7, so we've got 7 starters coming up, quite a big field in the men's handicap scull. And they come from clubs like Glebe, Abbotsford, Balmain and Drummoyne and UTS. So 5 clubs represented in the next event, which makes it one of the feature events of the day, the men's handicap scull. Of course, the points awarded here will go towards the men's section, which is the original Walker and Hall Chalice.
Both front Abbotsford lane 2. Incoming lane 7, 6, 5, 4, 3 and 1. Check your boat hard lane 2, check it hard. Check your boat lane 1, hard. Check UTS. Check light touch bell lane. Light touch Abbotsford lane 6. Check it hard lane 2. Check it Abbotsford lane 6. Light touch UTS. Light touch Drummoyne. Incoming Drummoyne. Lane 1. Light touch. Check it 1. Check it 2. Check it 3. Incoming Balmain. Incoming Glebe in the middle. Check it Glebe. Holding serve. Hold it serve. Lane 7, lane 6 and lane 5, light touch. Lane 2, light touch. Hold it 1, 2 and 3. Hold it serve 1, 2 and 3. Hold it 4. Drummoyne come through. Hold it Abbotsford, lane 6, light touch UTS. Touching. Hold it serve UTS. Incoming Drummoyne. Incoming Drummoyne and check it there. All crew, attention, I will count the seconds.
With the count commencing, it will be Richard Jones and Steve Hill from the Abbotsford Club will be making their move first off as the Go Scullers. At the 5-second mark, we will have seen Drummoyne's Branko Kovacic, and also I think Caldwell from Glebe will take up the 5-second mark. And then we move back to the 10-second mark with Camp and Wall from the Glebe Club,
making their way, and at the last to take off, the 7th sculler will be Carl Koverick from UTS Sculler over at Haberfield Rowing Club. So that's roughly, they've all started off on with their particular handicaps, and we wait expectantly to see. These will be fairly fast. There's some very experienced scullers in there, including the sculler of Koverick, Carl Koverick from UTS, who started off at the back marker at the 15-second mark. He'll be anxious to make his way through the pack. Well, they've covered about the first 250 metres at this stage of the game. They'll be shortly coming into view. They come across for a great finish in the men's section of the handicap single sculls for the Walker and Hall Trophy. And with only metres to go now, about 200 metres, we'll see them start to emerge around the corner of the shed, the scullers. It'll be interesting to see whether the back markers like Koverick and also at the 10-second markers, Michael Kemp from Balmain and Kevin Wall have made any movement. Upstairs, as now it is at the MLC sculler coming through, and it's MLC colours in the lead at this stage of the game from lane 2. Now that's likely to be Abbotsford, it's called, and that would be Richard Jones with a half a length in the lead. Richard Jones, as they make their way, it will be Jones then back to, I think that would be Kevin Wall, who started off in the second place from Glebe. And third place likely to be Stephen Caldwell from Glebe, would be back in third place. We'll leave the rest go for the judges, but they be the top 3 that go through in a very close race. But it was lovely to see the back marker there. I think it was Wall who started off at the 10-second, catching up with a very quick move from the Abbotsford sculler, Richard Jones. Well done to Richard Jones from Abbotsford, the Go sculler, and getting right up there amongst the top 3.
To finish over.
Go ahead.
We are about to set off next one row open quad.
Just give me 30 seconds.
Will do.
Yeah, start your right again.
They're just looking at the event then that we've just saw to make sure that they've got the right names down there, and the top 3 we've already said to you as it appeared from the finish line here, right in front of the clubhouse, the top 3, and I was surprised. We will confirm whether it was Jones who got up there for the win. I know the starters up there, they're pretty anxious to start the next one.
Yeah, whenever you're ready, Barbara.
Now, row up the mic, you've got 30 seconds.
Got the top 3. So Jones got up.
Keep you there, let it run.
So Jones first. Yep, that's right. Yep. Steve Hill. Hill. 2. Yep, and Caldwell. Yep, 3. Yep, third.
So Jones first.
Yep. Yep, that's right. Murray 4th. we think he's got this right. They've sorted it out now for the top 6 places. In the meantime, I think we might have been very close, if not they've started in the race number 12, which is the men's open quad. Just going very quickly for those of which there'd be a lot of interest in the men's handicap sculls. It was, as called, Richard Jones from Abbotsford Club, the old Sydney Women's MLC, now called Abbotsford. Richard Jones taking the win. Second place going to Steve Hill, also from Abbotsford. Third place then was going to Stephen Caldwell from Glebe, over there in lane 1. Fourth place, I think, went to lane number 7. That would be Carl Kobrick. And then fifth place would go to, I think it was Kemp. And then sixth place to Kevin Wall of Glebe. And seventh place to Branko Kobrick from Drummoyne. Their results in the handicap sculls, and that's the official placings. As we now go to the fourth last race on today's program, the men's open quad. And here they come down here now, a mix of colours. It's the under the stewardship, I think it is of Callum Steele, I think it could be, out there in the boat. As you can see, the 4 men, each with 2 sculls, across the line, unhurried at this stage, carrying their number 1 on the bow, and in a row over, they take out the race. So, with regard to that question that was asked some time ago, with which club might be leading in the point score, you'd have to say the Glebe would have a strong chance. They've really been very good in patronising the series in all these regards.
Copy, thank you. 140.
.142 was the approximate time. The official times will be posted on the New South Wales website, won by Glebe at the men's open quad. Next event is the women's novice single. 2 starters there, both from Glebe once again, Bridie Morrison and Maureen Taylor. They'll be anxious to get them on the water fairly quickly. Race schedule for 12 o'clock. I think we'll be seeing a start at the women's novice sculls well before that.
There's nothing more important than your health, so take good care of it. If you have an illness that requires regular checkups or need medical advice, there are a range of options. You can have an appointment using telehealth by phone or video conference. Check if your doctor can send the telehealth prescription to your pharmacy, or you can see your doctor in person. Together, we can all be COVID safe and stay healthy. Visit health.gov.au to learn more. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
For stepping up in tough times, for doing the little things, for keeping your distance and your sense of humour, for the courage you've shown and protecting your community. Thanks, Australia. The changes to stop the coronavirus aren't easy, but they're working. Keep going, and don't forget to download the COVID Safe app today. Together, we're stopping the spread. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
It's always dead flat. There's just no sound other than just like the little droplets hitting the water off your blades.
All you could feel was your breathing, the noise of the boat, the noise of the water.
You see the sun come up, you see the rain falling, you see the weather coming in. It's such an amazing perspective.
I just like the quietness, I guess, in your head as well as the quietness around you. There's only the next stroke and the stroke after that. However many more you got to take until you get what you want to get.
It's just up and down. I go forward, I put the blade in the water, come back. It's a simple sport, but it's incredibly complicated. You're using your entire body, and every part of your body affects the movement of the blade through the water.
It's as much art as science, the rhythm and the feel, always striving for the perfect stroke.
You never feel like you've actually got it right. So you're always learning, it's always evolving. Even when you do really well, you can do better. So there's always this constant ongoing challenge. It's quite exciting to try and keep chasing that.
Each stroke you're trying to do better and improve yourself and improve your technique. It's what I try and do in life as well. So each day you try and get better and stronger, and that's what I find really appealing about rowing.
I think my life revolves around things I learnt from rowing. The need for teamwork, the need to make hard decisions, the need to celebrate success and also celebrate sometimes failure, because we learn from our failures. They're all skills and attributes that I learnt through rowing, and I've carried them with me for a long, long time.
It's not just the success you have on the water and what you learn, it's what you take from rowing then apply to your life, whether it be relationships, whether it be from a business point of view. Rowers end up being really good citizens, really good business leaders, focused on community and what's right for those that are around them.
To watch your children change and grow and mature has been incredible for us as parents. Rowing has certainly made them shine in their own ways.
Something that really resonates with me that's integral with rowing is the sense of teamwork, the mutual respect and trust that you develop. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the people you row with know you better than your own family. They see you when you're tired and groggy. They see you after a race when you're defeated or elated. You see others, and through that you learn about yourself.
Before I started rowing, I didn't know that I was determined. I didn't know that I was passionate. I didn't know that I was this hard, fierce competitor.
What really sorts out success and failure often is when things get really tough. What we do say in rowing is the race only really starts when the pain starts to set in. And I think that's quite a good analogy, not just in sport, but in the rest of your life.
It's an incredibly demanding sport, and that anyone that's done it knows that you've committed yourself to something and strived for something pretty special. I think that lends itself to creating really, really strong bonds with people. That sense of we're all in this together and we all support each other, that for me is what's special about rowing. It only works when everyone actually pulls together, and some of the greatest people that are involved in our rowing community actually aren't even rowers. They're the volunteers, they're the race officials, it's the mums, it's the dads, it's the grandparents that come to support the kids.
I've had the joys of being a club rower, a club coach, a team manager, a selector. I've been able to go the full gamut of all the things involved in the sport. And I get as much satisfaction out of seeing my club do well as I do seeing the Olympic team do well.
What I want to pay forward is that sense of being included in something that's greater than yourself, that's a really caring community where there's a role for you to play, whatever your...
Some magnificent screenage on the part of Rowing Australia too. I'm absolutely astounded at the technology that Liam has managed to bring to the first of the regattas for the 2021 season. It's absolutely magnificent down here. There's not a cast of thousands, it's just Liam managing on a keyboard and a system, and he's got a few buttons to press, and it's a magnificent performance. I'm hearing the sound from, we've now got about an audience of about 150 people, I think, looking at the live stream from as far out west as Parramatta, out that way, and a magnificent first effort at live. Congratulations. But the next event looks like it might be a two-horse event. And two crews involved, which obviously come from Glebe. One under the patronage of Bridie Morrison, and the other one of Marina Taylor. This is, I'm sorry, I think that's the, yes, the women's novice single. Bridie Morrison and Marine Taylor. Morrison, I think, could be on the far side of the course over there in lane 1. And being the novice single scullers, this is going to be very interesting. We believe this to be the novice single scullers, a race scheduled for 12 o'clock. So it's got away a little bit early on us. And Marina Taylor on the clubhouse side of the course. Now these are two inexperienced scullers, very inexperienced, and the results will show us Glebe's performance then as a recruiter of young people. Now we can see a little bit short the stroke, but heavens above, for people who've never raced before, this is their very first event, and a great view of a young person, nervous at the start and getting more confidence now as she makes her way down to the finishing line. From lane 1, that will be Bridie Morrison
2:23.50
across the line. And the other sculler, probably not quite as experienced, and obviously on the far side of the course. Now we have to wait and see whether we have got the names right, because they may be carrying their club numbers rather than their lane numbers.
Go ahead.
We have both crews getting ready. We'll bring
Well, it looks like the regatta might be finished a little bit earlier than normal, but just make sure that we've got those numbers right. Morrison versus Taylor, and both from Glebe. We're not quite sure whether they're carrying their lane numbers or whether they're carrying their club numbers with their number 2 sculler. So Morrison from Glebe takes the win, and second place will go to Martina Taylor, also from Glebe.
You're right to go.
Well, there we go. Now we move back to the start for the men's novice quad. 2 starters, Glebe 1 and Glebe 2.
Changes we've made during coronavirus to help stop the spread will continue to play an even bigger part into the future. That's why we all need to keep making COVID-safe choices, like maintaining physical distancing and practicing good hygiene. To protect others, we need to stay at home when unwell with cold or flu-like symptoms, seek medical care if needed, and get tested for COVID-19. If you haven't already, download the COVID Safe app. Find out more at health.gov.au. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
Let it run lane 1. Get ready to check the butt. Check it out. 1, 2. Keep coming. Keep further. Keep coming. Let it run. Let it run. And check it now. Check it out.
And we have a start there off and running, and a good clean start in this, the second last race of the day's program, the men's novice quad. And it's a boomer. This is going to be great between 2 crews from the 1 club. One conducted by Callum Steele, the other by Archie Osmond. They've covered the first 100 metres now. 80% of the race still to go as they make their way down through Blackwattle Bay. As the fog starts to come back over the metropolitan city once again, as we see the second last late race of the day starting to approach the original premises of Glebe Rowing Club. Close racing between Glebe number 1 and Glebe number 2. As we said, we've got Steele, the stroke of the Glebe number 1 crew, and closely followed this by Osmond, but they are very close together, about 350 metres still to go. Coming up to the 300 metre mark now, and with only 200 metres to go, and very quickly we'll see them start to emerge from the corner of the original Glebe shed. Well, wind's starting to come up now, getting a little bit more breezy up here on the veranda of the Glebe shed as we see the crew starting to come through, as we can see through the windows here, and it's not as close as we thought at this stage of the game. Perhaps a little bit more than a length separating the 2 crews, but coming up here now, it's a good rate coming from the crew. It looks on the far side Not far to go between the finishing line. They've collided with the buoy. That lead, the early lead that they had now has been whittled back to about 3 lengths now as they come up to the line. A little bit of problem with steering from the Glebe number crew on this side of the course. That would be the crew from Marine Taylor. As they come through, it would be the Glebe number 1 crew. That's the crew of Callum Steele taking the win, and Archie Osborne's crew, Glebe number 2 on this side of the course, about 2.5 lengths separating first from second.
Thank you all, and those that have been out in the weather.
Here, are they going to be? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the racing today. The last race has been cancelled. That is the women's intermediate coxless pair. And that finishes for the day. I don't know how long we can keep going with this live stream, but absolutely it has been a magnificent morning. It's been full of fog, full of rain, and a lot of effort on the part of the officials to actually do this live stream. I believe it from 150 people that are still watching, you've had a wonderful morning's entertainment, if at least. And I'm assured that the production has got better as the mornings proceeded. I'm sure it's going to be a feature of the remaining regattas. The next regatta is the Haberfield Regatta, UTS Regatta, and on the schedule due to take place next Sunday, the 2nd of August, next Sunday. As this coming Sunday, 1 week away from today, we'll have the 2nd of the JB Sharp Regattas, and that we should be able to get a shot of almost the whole of the event coming down with the cameras coming from the clubhouse over there in Haberfield. Well, good morning everybody. It's been a great day. Now we're into the afternoon. I think no, we're still on the morning. It's been a great morning. Thanks for your patronage, and to the 170 people that have tuned in over the early morning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.